Right, let's see if the stream is going out. Right, bear with me. Is this stream going out? Oh yes, yes it is. Is my audio going out? It appears to be receiving me. Bear with me. Yes it is. Right. Chat is open. Right, here we go. Hi, I'm Stewie3D, and today I committed a massive crime against tech. But I did it for a specific reason. Hear me out. But today I violated a MacBook Pro. I violated my MacBook Pro. So how did I violate my MacBook Pro, you might ask? Well, I completely removed the OS X partition. I've basically taken my MacBook Pro and stripped away everything that made it a Mac. I took away all the OS X partition, the recovery partition. I literally put the Windows installer in it, just went bang. Format, get rid of everything. Obviously backed all my data up and put it on my iCloud, NAS, but yeah. And the reason was, OS X, or Mac OS, whatever they're calling it nowadays, has become a bloated, horrible mess. This laptop isn't the fastest in the world, but it's not particularly slow. But on OS X, or Mac OS, it ran like absolute arse. And it has been for quite some time now. Like, for instance, one of the biggest bugs this thing would have is you'd close the lid on it, and then when you go to open the lid, it wouldn't turn back on. It was like, okay, you'd be mashing the keys, white wiggling the mouse, nothing would come back on. You'd have to hold the power, reset it, and then it'll come back on eventually like that. And I was just having so many weird little issues with it. So many really... And I was resetting the PRAM, the NVRAM, all the usual troubleshooting tricks. And yeah, it's not worked very well at all for lately. I did a clean install of Mac OS X the other day, and used the migration assistant to bring my files across rather than just doing a straight time machine restore. And it just ran like arse. Like, I was getting spinning beach balls of death all the time, and it was just not very good at all. And it's been that way for a while, and I believe me and Skazius were talking about it earlier, and it's quite a well-known no, it's not illegal on the radio wave. But it might upset the techno gods. You can't take a Mac and strip away OS X. Whoa. But no, yeah, basically me and Skazius were discussing it, and it's quite a common belief amongst a lot of people in the Apple sort of world that Apple are sort of bringing planned obsolescence in. I mean, this laptop is a mid-2012 model, and they sold it up until recently. It was only last year, or about 18 months ago, they actually discontinued it. When it came out, well, this one actually should have had a 500 gig hard drive in, but because I thought the hard drive had broke, I put a new 1 terabyte one in. Turns out it was the hard drive cable inside it rather than the entire hard drive. But I've got a 1 terabyte solid state hybrid drive which has an 8 gig flash, an 8 gig SSD mixed in with it, and it basically caches your data to make it a bit quicker. And even with the solid state hybrid drive, it was just running like arse. And yeah, as I said, me and Skazius got talking, and yeah, it seems like Apple are really they're trying to do all the horrible little tricks to make people go out and buy new laptops. I mean, to be honest with you, this laptop with Windows runs absolutely brilliantly. It's not the fastest computer in the world because it's still running an old hard drive, but it's not slow. And I don't even quite understand this. As you can see, I'm transferring my iTunes library back from my network attached storage. I am actually getting double the Wi-Fi speed on Windows than I did on OS X, and I don't quite understand how that's the case. Why I would be getting double the performance. The most I ever saw Wi-Fi performance on the OS X side was about 20 megabytes per second. It's hitting near 40 at the moment. I've never seen it that quick. I'll put it this way, over gigabit Ethernet I was only getting 40 megabits per second. I'm getting that over Wi-Fi now, and it's just, Windows is just running so much better on it. Now, when I switched over to Mac from Windows back in 2005, this never used to be the case. Macs were really brilliant. They were really well optimized. The hardware, the software just worked. You know, the Windows laptops were cheap and nasty back in the day. And I remember having a 1.6 gig Windows laptop. I think it was like 1.6 gig of RAM with Windows XP. And it ran like crap. It wasn't the best laptop. And then Skazius had a PowerBook G3, an ancient laptop by comparison. And it was awesome. It ran really well. It even had a little bouncing duck at the bottom where you used to wave a little sign whenever you got an MSN messenger, and it was awesome. So yeah. So because I saw that bouncing duck, I was like, I have to have that. So I went out and paid 150 quid for a PowerBook G3 off eBay. Stuck 10.4 Tiger on it, which was the current operating system at the time. And apart from obviously media encoding, general web browsing and general usage day to day, the 400 megahertz PowerBook G3 absolutely ran rings around the Windows laptops at the time, purely because of the way the Apple software and the hardware was really sort of meshed together. You know, it was designed for it, and it was just lightweight. Everything worked. Like you plug a digital camera into a Mac, you wouldn't have to install all the drivers. It would just come on. Hello, do you want to import some photos? Yes, I do. Same with printers, they just worked. And that's been the case for a while, but lately OS X has become, or Mac OS or whatever the hell they're calling it, has just become just bloated. You know, it is realistically 10.4 was, for me, I find, was the peak. And yeah, they've just ruined it lately. I would say nowadays, to be able to get a decent experience with Mac OS, you need a minimum of an SSD and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And they've only just recently stopped selling Macs with anything less than 8 gigs of RAM. The 4 gigabyte model was about the the most powerful. The 4 gigabytes were still hovering around. They just discontinued them. And hey, Unknown Radio Wave, don't worry about it, mate. Windows has breathed a new lease of life into it. I mean, the MacBook here is just, it's old and battered, to be honest with you. I could have bought an SSD for it, because I've got a broken DVD drive in it, so I could have pulled the DVD drive out, put one of those converters in and put an SSD in it, and had it like the Omen with a little 128 boot SSD with 1 terabyte hard drive. And I could have put more RAM into it, but that would be like 120, 150 quid's worth of hardware, and I just don't think that's worth it. I've just got a cheapy Windows 10 license to give me a fully activated version of Windows 10, and it's snappy. It just works quite well. You know, it's working really well. I mean, and I'm streaming from it now. And there you go, to prove. 1 second. Boot Camp control panel. Bear with. Look, there you go. There's no Mac OS X stuff there at all. It's just Windows. But yeah, as I said, it's just Windows. Well, that's the thing, Unknown Radio Wave. That's why I held back in doing it. Because to be honest with you, I was humming and hawing. I've been thinking about it for a little while now, you know, because I remember when I had Windows on Boot Camp on it before, it ran much better than the OS X partition, and I thought, well, to be honest with you, you know, it's a Mac. You've got a Mac, run OS X on it. But to be honest with you, Unknown Radio, I've not really wasted my money. I've had this laptop for ages. You know, it's a mid 2012 model. It's an old model. It's 5 years old by comparison. It's the mid 2012 model. I've not had it since mid 2012. I think I got it 2013, 2014. Because I got it with Mavericks on it. I've then gone through Yosemite, El Capitan, Sierra, and I even had the High Sierra beta on there at one point. So I have had a good run as a Mac, but as I said, as a Mac now, it's not very good. As a Mac, it's just, yeah, not really worth it. But as a Windows laptop, whoa, as a Windows laptop, it's brilliant. I mean, Christ, I shut the lid on it, and I actually open the lid, and it wakes up. You know, whereas before on OS 10, you shut the lid, and it bloody it's meant to go to sleep, but it goes into a flipping coma. Well, you have to hold the bloody power button to fully power cycle it, and then it crashes. And then it crashes out, and it's just like, oh god. So yeah, no, sticking the Windows on it was not a decision I made lightly, but it's a decision I'm glad that I've done, because I don't really use it anymore. I've got the Omen. The Omen's my baby. The only thing I used the MacBook for was a data dump. It had all my photos, my music library and stuff on there. Well, I'm bringing my music library back now to go in with the iTunes, which is on there somewhere. iCloud Photo is being prepared now. So literally, all I've got to do is, once that's done, just hit download, and all my iCloud photos will come back down as standard. GTA 4 certainly ain't going to run on this. I may get back to doing GTA 4 at some point, but I'm too busy and I'm too engrossed in Metal Gear Solid: The Phantom Pain at the moment, so I'm enjoying that a lot. But no, back to the MacBook though. Yeah, like on the Windows side of things, it's waking up when you open the lid more. You know, it's not heating up as much. The battery's charging quicker. The Wi-Fi performance, double the speed on the Wi-Fi. As I said, it's the same hardware. It's just a different operating system. I don't quite understand why the Wi-Fi is suddenly a lot better, but it is. And yeah, it's just at that point now where I think if you've got an older Mac like I have, like as I said, 2011, 2012. I mean, whilst Apple still are pushing software updates out, and you will be able to run the latest software on these older Macs, I think honestly, it would be a good idea to consider maybe cutting your ties from OS 10. If like us in this house, 1 second. Oh, I needed that. If like us in this house, all you use it for is a bit of basic web browsing and stuff, then yeah, just shove Windows on it. Windows isn't, I'll tell you what, it's gone the other way. OS 10 now feels, more Mac OS or whatever the hell they're calling it, now feels completely bloated compared to what it used to. Well, now, and Windows 10, it feels a lot more streamlined. It feels better. It feels like a much nicer, more refined, a more futuristic operating system. You know, I feel like I can do a lot more with it, to be honest with you. And it, as I said, the Windows 10, like before, I mean, as I said about the drivers, with Windows 10, you literally just put the Windows 10 on and it downloads it all for you. Plug anything into it. None of this having to find a driver CD or flip in, you know, Windows Update generally gets it for you. And it's just, you know, Windows 10 has come a long way. Now, people are going to argue, well, Windows 10 is spyware. It's just effectively spying on you. But the fact is, with OS 10, it's exactly the same. Apple have even admitted in their new developer conferences, oh yeah, we're using all this deep learning to learn about our customers, to make sure the user experience is all blah blah blah. In other words, we're spying on our customers. Supposedly we're encrypting it, but we know what the customers are doing. We know if they're looking at dodgy big fat bird lesbian pornos. We don't, then we're going to flip and build a profile on that. They all bloody do it. I mean, Linux, if you really want an operating system which doesn't spy on you, you go for a really random distro of Linux, like Scasius. Scasius would be screaming, "Go Linux, go Linux!" But yeah, realistically, the reason I went Windows rather than Linux is Windows is quite easy to set up and get looking nice and set up for the wife, because effectively the MacBook Pro, apart from having my data dump on it, is basically my wife's laptop now. I use the Omen all the time. And B, with iTunes and iCloud Photos, they work really well on Windows, and there's obviously not a Linux equivalent for that. So that's why, the biggest thing what we were worried about was losing photos. And actually, because they're all in the iCloud anyway, basically it just means I can download them again as if they were on the Mac, on the computer altogether. So it's a much better way of doing it. And likewise, if I take a photo on my phone with the iCloud Photos, it'll be on the laptop again within seconds, and it'll synchronize it to the Omen as well at the same time. So yeah, that's, but yeah, it's pretty, as I said, it's one of those. Yeah, I just think Apple now are planned obsolescence, and people have been saying that for ages. I mean, look at what happened when was it iOS 7 came out on the iPhone 4. Oh God, that thing ran like a dog. It was awful, and people complained like no tomorrow with that. And I think that's the same case with the macOS laptops as well. As I said, just macOS lately, the last couple of versions have ran like absolute arse. And even after clean installs and just restoring your data back, it still runs like arse. I mean, I used to like Time Machine. I thought Time Machine was a really good way of doing it. But as I've discovered, and as Scasius has always said, that actually no, if you've got a dodgy configuration, Time Machine backs that up, and then when you use Time Machine to restore all your files, it restores said dodgy configuration. So it's like, well, actually, yeah, you make a lot of sense there. And I've learned that. I've done a clean install of Mac. I've done a straight Time Machine restore, and that just made it crap again. So I thought, okay, well, I'll reinstall it, and then I'll use the migration assistant just to bring back the files that I want. And even with the migration assistant, it still made it absolutely crap. It just, yeah, it was just not very good at all. I mean, this transfer has amazed me how quick it's going at the moment, this music transfer. It took me hours to send it over to the wireless hard drive from the Mac OS X side earlier, and I was using FileZilla, which is FTP, which is slightly quicker as well than using just the Finder. But bringing it back to the Windows side of things, it's come across, I mean, it's done 45% in a matter of a few minutes. It's not taken ages at all. It's working absolutely brilliantly. And yeah, as I said, I got the license cheap off eBay, so chances are it's activated and seems to be working alright. So I haven't paid no money, and as I said, I wasn't going to throw any money after this Mac. It's old, it's battered, DVD drive don't work. If I pull the power cable, you probably can't see it actually because the camera on it isn't very good, but the power cable's all frayed and held together by duct tape, and it's seen better days, this Mac, and there was just no way I was going to put 150 quid's worth of parts in it to limp it along, making it run OS X better, when at the end of the day it can run Windows absolutely fantastically. And to be honest with you, all we use it for is web browsing, a few photos, bit of emails, and iTunes, which you can do just as well on Windows. So yeah. Oh, you got a HP Pavilion. Which one did you get in the end? Did you get the 15T or something? Sorry, anyone who's watching this after it's live, I'm speaking to one of my viewers on Radio Wave. He's been talking to me about capture cards, and he's just said he's got a HP Pavilion laptop. So yeah, the Omen is just basically a HP Pavilion with a black shell, really, just a bit more powerful. So yeah, but yeah, so that's it. This is my my crime against tech. I have taken a Mac, and well, what is it now? I've taken the Mac, but taken the Mac out of the Mac. So is it just I've got a Book Pro. I've now got a Book Pro. It's not a Mac, it's just a Book Pro. So yeah, honestly though, I would highly recommend it if you've got an older Mac, a 2011, 2012, something was looking a bit long in the tooth, something without an SSD. Consider getting Windows on there, because OS 10, the Mac OS now, just you need an SSD and 8 gigs of RAM. It has become ridiculously bloated. And also another thing with Mac OS is the ports and stuff on it are bad. Like we were looking, Rocket League, there is a Mac port of Rocket League. Now on Windows, Rocket League only needs 2 gigabytes of RAM. On Mac, you need 8 gigabytes of RAM to run flipping Rocket League. Even the Linux port still only needs 2 gigs. So yeah, it's just, I guess everyone expects their Mac users to have 8 gigs of RAM, I guess, or it's just the fact that Mac OS's RAM management is absolutely shocking now. So yeah. Well, I'm rabbited on a bit. I'm gonna go to bed in a minute. So yeah, this is my crime against tech. But I tell you what, I highly recommend it if you have got an older Mac, especially if you've got an older Mac where it isn't supported by Mac OS updates anymore. I would seriously consider sticking Windows 10 on it, because Windows 10 is nowhere near as bad as Windows of old. It is so much better. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to finish this stream. The reason there's been no fancy chat boxes pop up is because I am doing the stream from the MacBook. So I literally just threw OBS on there with the bare minimum sort of capture settings. I've not got any of the fancy settings. That's all on my Omen. I won't actually stream on this at all, to be honest with you, because, well, I've got nothing to actually stream from. But I figured I would show you that I am running Windows on my MacBook with me with me boot camp bit. There you go. Restart an OS X. There is no OS X. Yeah, Windows. Although though, I could start it in target disk mode, which basically turns it into one big giant portable hard drive. You just connect that via a was it FireWire cable to another Mac or whatever, and then it basically treats it as a giant external hard drive, which is quite cool. So yeah. Ooh, remote control infrared receiver. That still works in Windows. Nice. But yeah, with the Boot Camp software, it just, yeah, it worked really well. Oh, I lost all my throughput then, but my throughput's picked up again. So yeah. And time over here on Radio Wave is 11:10 at the night in the PM. So I am very close to bedtime, because I have work tomorrow. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks for hearing me out about my crimes against tech. Don't go too harsh on me in the comments section. I know there'll probably be some Apple fans. You've desecrated your Mac. You killed it. Ah! So, yeah. Oh well. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.